We're all aware of the burgeoning growth of the prison system over the last 10 years, over the last decade. And that growth has brought about certain changes. I think one of the most significant changes brought about is what it has done to prisoners themselves. Okay? The statistics speak for themselves. We have a prison population that is 55,000. At the time of adequate was 12,500. All right? That growth has come primarily from communities of color. And what has resulted is that we have a system that is no longer a state system. When we refer to the state prison system, we envision an institution or a system of institutions where when you go in there, you find represent in that population or in that inmate population people from all over the state. That is not the case. We're dealing with a criminal justice system where the jurisdictions that they serve has shrunken, has become more specific in who they're dealing with. A state prison system should serve all of the counties in the state. When we talk about a prison population that's 85% or 86% black and Hispanic, we're not talking about people who come from all over New York State. Black and Hispanics come from specific areas within the state. That in our communities there are movements. We have what is known as community control. Community control is based upon the fact that all of the institutions in our community, and that's what this deals with. These crime-generative factors talk about the failure of basic institutions in our communities. Back in the 60s in our communities, they developed the stance that any institution that directly affects our community, we must control it to assure that it has beneficial effects, all right, for the life chances of our community. All right? We take the same stance inside the prison system. Our new prison movement is not based on global revolutionary type of stuff. It's based primarily on a relationship between us and our communities. When we say that there are no prison problems, they're only problems that are shared jointly by the prisons and the communities themselves. What we find is this. Because the bulk of the prison population comes from the community, we have a flow here. You come from the minority communities and you return to the minority communities. Okay? Who operates the prisons is the state. Alright? Now, most people would understand the state to be a government by which has their best interest in mind. It always seems to be well-defined elements. The prison versus the administration. And this has to do with the riots and the rebellion and how prisoners see themselves. Alright? Prisoners see themselves as versing the administration. It is the administration that keeps them here, it's the administration that abuses them, it's the administration that from the very beginning is aligned with the state, who everyone in their community, whether they be criminals or not. There are very few people in the minority communities today, or the black people, communities of color today, who don't at some point view the system as their oppressor. Alright, and this has historical significance. But we find in our own communities, that our own communities in their so-called struggles for community empowerment, that what they're doing, they're facing the same people who we're facing in the state. They see the state as an oppressor. The whole movement for community empowerment is to get the state to do for the community what prisoners are trying to get the administration to do for them while they're here. So what we try to do is to bring C on our side. Our equation becomes 3 plus C equals A. That is the basis of what we call our linkage. What we need to do here, what we've been doing inside the prison, we've been doing by ourselves. We need to make linkage with our communities. We need to have a prison movement that is aligned with the community empowerment movement in the street. No person, whether he be a prisoner or whatever, lives just solely for today. Prisoners dream and they scheme about going home, when they're going to leave here. People think about their futures. And as prisoners, when we come here and we think about our futures, the future looks very dim. Because we don't come from all over the state, because when we look around us and we see people who come from the same communities as one another, we talk to one another, we share our experiences, and we share our dreams. And what we find out is this, that we all share certain aspects, of what happens in our communities. If we come from deprived communities, what we share in common, all these crime-generative factors. This is what we have in common all together. And these crime-generative factors are what are known as structural changes, the social economic forces that rule in our society. And one thing we have to remember is that life is not simply cut and dry where you fit into neat little packages. I don't know of any offender who sees himself strictly as an offender. Every offender sees himself as a victim. And he sees the offender, he sees the victim as an offender. He never says, and we speak every day, I talk to guys every day. He never says, I'm totally an offender, I was totally wrong. The victim played a role. The victim is seen as an offender. And this is what restorative justice has to take into effect. There are no cut and dry definitions. And we also have to remember who's applying the definition.